The sun beat down mercilessly on forward operating base horizon, a dusty outpost on the Afghanistan-Pakistan border where the temperature routinely climbed past 110 degrees by mid-morning. Sergeant Maya Reeves wiped sweat from her brow as she surveyed the fresh batch of recruits stumbling off the transport helicopter. After 3 combat tours and 8 years in Special Forces, Maya had seen her share of green soldiers, but this new training assignment still felt strange after so much time in the field. "They look even younger this time," remarked Captain Rodriguez, her commanding officer and longtime friend from their days training under Colonel Merrill Tengasdal's elite unit. Maya nodded. "Let's hope they're quick learners. We don't have time for slow." Intelligence reports indicated increased activity in the nearby mountains, the kind that preceded coordinated attacks. The base needed these recruits combat-ready faster than usual, which is precisely why Maya had been reassigned here. Few instructors had her real-world experience or training pedigree. Among the disoriented newcomers, one stood out immediately, tall, broad-shouldered, with a swagger that seemed out of place for someone who hadn't earned it yet. Private James Hoffman. Maya had already memorized his file. Former college quarterback, top of his class in basic, and according to his previous commanders, a natural leader with an attitude problem. "That one's going to be trouble," Rodriguez said, following her gaze. "Nothing I haven't handled before," Maya replied, though something about Hoffman's demeanor set off warning bells. She'd seen that look before, on men who couldn't accept taking orders from a woman half their size. The next morning, Maya led the recruits through their first tactical exercise. The training course, designed to simulate a village clearing operation, used non-lethal training weapons that still required proper handling and respect. She demonstrated the entry technique that had saved her life during an operation with Lieutenant Audie Murphy's protege in Mosul. "This isn't like the movies," Maya explained, her voice carrying across the attentive group. "You hesitate, you die. You get sloppy, your team dies." Most recruits listened with appropriate gravity. Hoffman, however, smirked and whispered something to the soldier beside him, who laughed nervously. "Something to share with the class, Private Hoffman?" Maya asked. "No, ma'am," he replied, the honorific sounding more like an insult. "Good, because the techniques I'm teaching saved 16 hostages during the embassy operation with Colonel Eileen Collins. I'd hate to think you know better." The first run-through went smoothly until Maya paired up with Hoffman for the room-clearing demonstration. As they approached the doorway, Maya sensed the change in his posture before she saw it, the subtle shift in weight, the tightening grip on his weapon. When they entered the room, instead of covering his sector as instructed, Hoffman swung around, training his rifle directly at Maya's head. The room fell silent. The barrel hovered inches from her forehead, Hoffman's finger too close to the trigger for comfort. "Bang," he whispered, just loud enough for her to hear. "Guess you'd be dead now, Sergeant." The other recruits froze, uncertain whether this was part of the exercise. Maya's expression remained unchanged, her eyes locked on Hoffman's. In that moment, she recognized the dangerous combination of arrogance and insecurity that had no place in combat. What Hoffman didn't realize was that he had just made a critical error. He had mistaken Maya's calm demeanor for weakness, her professionalism for softness. He had no idea about the missions she'd led, the firefights she'd survived, or the specialized training she'd received from legends in the field. And he was about to learn exactly why you don't cross a Special Forces veteran. Time slowed to a crawl as Maya registered the training rifle aimed at her skull. The room's tension thickened, other recruits frozen in disbelief at Hoffman's brazen challenge. Maya's mind flashed to the ambush in Kandahar where she'd faced down the barrel of a very real AK-47. This was different, but the disrespect was equally dangerous in a combat environment. "Interesting choice, Private," Maya said, her voice unnervingly calm. What happened next occurred so rapidly that most recruits would later disagree on the sequence of events. Maya's hand shot upward, deflecting the barrel while simultaneously stepping inside Hoffman's guard. Her leg swept behind his knee as her palm struck his solar plexus. The rifle clattered to the ground as Hoffman found himself flat on his back, Maya's boot resting lightly on his throat. "In real combat, you'd be dead," she said, not even breathing hard. And your poor decision would have endangered your entire squad. Captain Rodriguez entered the training room, his expression grim. Sergeant Reeves, my office. Bring Private Hoffman. The walk across the base was silent and tense. Inside the office, Rodriguez didn't mince words. We've got bigger problems than your ego, Hoffman. Intelligence just confirmed a Taliban splinter group is planning an attack on the nearby village of Khost. They believe we have informants there. Maya's stomach tightened. She knew Khost well. Families, children, elders who had risked everything to help American forces. We're deploying a response team immediately, Rodriguez continued. Sergeant Reeves will lead given her experience with the local population. Hoffman's face reddened. Sir, with respect, you've shown precious little of that today, Rodriguez cut him off. But you're going to. Consider it your real training. Follow Sergeant Reeves as every command or face court-martial. Within the hour, Maya led a team of 6, including a sullen Hoffman, toward Khost. The mission was straightforward but dangerous. Evacuate key informants before the attack. Stay tight. Maintain formation, Maya instructed as they approached the village outskirts. These people trust me. Don't make me regret bringing you. The first warning came as they entered the village. Too much silence, no children playing. Maya signaled the team to take cover just as the first shots rang out. They'd walked into an ambush. Contact front, Maya shouted as bullets splintered the mud wall beside her. Rodriguez, this is Reeves. We are taking fire, village compromised. Multiple hostiles. The team returned fire, pinned down behind inadequate cover. Maya spotted movement on a rooftop, a fighter positioning a heavy machine gun that would tear through their position. Cover me, she ordered, then sprinted across open ground toward a flanking position. Hoffman watched in disbelief as Maya moved with practiced precision, exactly as she demonstrated in training. 3 quick shots and the rooftop threat disappeared. The radio crackled. Reeves, be advised, QRF is 20 minutes out. Too long, Maya muttered. She spotted their primary target, the village elder and his family huddled in a building across the square. Between them lay 30 meters of exposed ground swept by enemy fire. We need to reach that building, Maya said. I'll draw their fire. When they focus on me, get to the family. That's suicide, Hoffman protested, genuine concern replacing his earlier arrogance. This is what we do, Maya replied simply. Before anyone could object, she broke cover, firing rapidly while zigzagging toward a new position. Enemy fire immediately concentrated on her. A bullet grazed her arm, another tore through her vest. Hoffman hesitated only briefly before leading the others toward the family. As they reached the building, he looked back to see Maya take a hit to the leg, stumbling behind a well. The Taliban fighters began converging on her position, sensing vulnerability. Hoffman made a split-second decision that would change everything. Protect the civilians, he told the others, then charged back into the open, directly toward the fallen sergeant who had, just hours ago, been at the wrong end of his rifle. Blood soaked through Maya's pant leg as she pressed herself against the crumbling well, calculating her dwindling options. 3 hostiles were advancing on her position, and her ammunition was running low. The pain was manageable. She'd endured worse during the operation with Colonel Eileen Collins. But her mobility was compromised. She prepared to make her final stand when unexpected covering fire erupted from her right flank. Hoffman charged toward her, firing with precision that belied his recruit status. He slid into position beside her, his face streaked with dirt and sweat. What part of protect the civilians was unclear, Private, Maya growled, reloading her weapon. Couldn't let my commanding officer die on my first real mission, Hoffman replied, the earlier arrogance gone from his voice. Bad for my record. A shadow of a smile crossed Maya's face before she returned to combat mode. 2 on the left, 1 circling right. I'll take left. They moved in perfect synchronization, as if the training room incident had never happened. Maya's shots found both targets on the left while Hoffman eliminated the flanking threat. The momentary advantage gave them breathing room. But Maya knew they remained dangerously exposed. We need to move, she said. Attempting to stand before her injured leg buckled. Without hesitation, Hoffman supported her weight. Which way, Sergeant? Maya pointed toward a narrow alley that would provide cover back to the building where the rest of the team protected the civilians. They had covered half the distance when the distinctive crack of a sniper rifle echoed through the village. Hoffman stiffened, then stumbled forward. "I'm hit," he gasped, a dark stain spreading across his shoulder. Maya shifted, now supporting him instead. "Keep moving, soldier." They reached the building as the Quick Reaction Force helicopters appeared on the horizon, their distinctive thrum bringing both relief and urgency. Maya directed the evacuation of the civilians while maintaining defensive positions. The elder's family and 3 other informants were secured first, followed by the wounded. As medics loaded Hoffman onto a helicopter, he caught Maya's wrist. "I was wrong about you, Sergeant." "I was wrong about a lot of things." "Save it for the debrief, Private," she replied, but squeezed his hand briefly before turning back to coordinate the final extraction. 3 weeks later, Maya stood before the remaining recruits at FOB Horizon. Her leg was healing, though the limp would take time to disappear completely. Captain Rodriguez had insisted she continue the training program, claiming no one else could whip these recruits into shape fast enough. "The situation you faced in training was controlled," Maya addressed them. What Private Hoffman experienced in Coast wasn't. The difference between coming home standing or in a box often comes down to the training you're receiving right now, she gestured, toward the back of the room where Hoffman stood, his arm in a sling but otherwise recovered. He had requested to rejoin training as soon as medically cleared. "Private Hoffman will demonstrate the proper room clearing technique we began before our interruption." Hoffman moved to the front, standing at attention before her. "With your permission, Sergeant." The respect in his voice was genuine now, earned through blood and fire rather than demanded through rank. As training resumed, the change was palpable. The recruits attacked each exercise with newfound seriousness. Word of Coast had spread throughout the base, how a Special Forces veteran had held her position despite being wounded, how she'd prioritized civilian safety above her own, and how she'd turned an arrogant recruit into a soldier willing to risk his life for his commanding officer. During the final exercise of the day, Maya observed Hoffman leading his team through a complex extraction scenario. His commands were clear, his movements efficient, and his awareness of his team's positioning showed remarkable improvement. Captain Rodriguez joined her on the observation platform. Hoffman requested Special Forces selection training after his recovery. "Said you inspired him." Maya watched as the recruit who had once aimed a rifle at her had now moved with the discipline and focus of a soldier who understood the true weight of that weapon. "Sometimes, the best lessons come from the worst mistakes," she said quietly. Later that evening, as the Afghan sun set behind the mountains, Maya received orders for her next deployment. She would be leading a specialized unit, including Hoffman, into territory few American forces had entered. The mission details were classified, but one thing was clear. The recruit who had challenged her authority now stood ready to follow her into hell itself. Some lessons could only be taught by those who had already walked through fire, and some soldiers only truly understood the meaning of respect when they discovered exactly why you don't cross a Special Forces veteran.